All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. Well, that sound means this part of the show brought to you by the GCI guys at Realty One Group and my man Lee Goldberg, former TV sportscaster, by the way. He was on the show yesterday. He wants to be on your home team, buying, selling, renting. Talk to the GCI guys. Goldberg and his team will save you money. Get this, all of our listeners get $1,000 in your hand at closing. If you're a hero, hometown hero, veteran, military, police, fire, teacher, nurse, you're going to get $2,000 back, even if you're in the hospitality casino industry. Also getting $2,000 back. If you're moving to Cali, talk to the GCI guys. Give them a buzz. 702-902-3029. If you call or text Lee right now, he will answer. 702-902-3029. Check them out at thegciguys.com and the GCI guys on all social media. So Donald Trump taking to Twitter again today. So should that be a shocker to anybody? Probably not, right? Probably not. So it's kind of an interesting story. In a way, it's kind of funny. So Chris Cuomo, as you know, does a show on CNN. And I know JD is a huge fan of the Chris Cuomo show. I know you watch it every night, don't you, JD?
Religiously, Brian.
Yeah, I thought
religiously.
So. I thought so. Well, President Trump is ripping on Cuomo, called him an out-of-control animal. Here's why. There's a video confrontation that takes place. It's surfaced on YouTube. And this guy, it's a bizarre video. This guy in New York yesterday approached CNN's Chris Cuomo, called him Fredo, Corleone. And I guess Cuomo didn't really like it very much. He responds by saying, "You're going to have a problem." The man responds back, "What are you going to do about it?" And Cuomo says, "I will effing ruin your bleep. I'll effing throw you down these stairs." So Cuomo just lost his mind. This guy's obviously messing with him.
Right.
You know, he for whatever reason, the guy's an idiot. You know, going up to him calling Fredo Corleone. It's in response to Chris Cuomo. Of course, we all know who the member of his family is, and he's calling him the brother. And obviously it's a put down and it's a cheap shot. But in this day and age of social media, if you are a public figure, and Chris Cuomo is absolutely a public figure, he does a show on CNN regardless of the ratings.
You can't do that.
He's very recognizable. You can't swear at somebody and threaten them with violence when somebody comes up to you and tries to mess with you.
Especially when he's kind of the composed one on CNN.
Well, speaking of somebody who's not composed, let's go back to the president on this one. He tweeted out this morning, all the things happening in the world. And an hour ago, Donald Trump tweets this out in regards to Chris Cuomo. Would Chris Cuomo be given a red flag for his recent rant? Filthy language and a total loss of control. He shouldn't be allowed to have any weapon. He's nuts. I mean, is this the person that you want? Is this the person that should be talking about foul language and being absolutely nuts that shouldn't have a weapon? I don't think Donald Trump should have a weapon.
He is previewing the red flag laws, and he's making an example of who happens to be a public figure that should maybe be considered not to get a weapon under those circumstances. Honestly, the situation with Cuomo sounds a bit like roid rage. Not to mention, he obviously has an issue. He obviously feels very, very insecure about his position compared to his older brother.
Of course,
clearly.
Of course he's sensitive to that.
That's abundantly clear. Now, I had no idea that the term Fredo was a slur.
Corleone.
I get that, but if that's the case, then why was that the name of the brother in one of the most popular movies of all time?
Well, Donald Trump certainly knows what it means, and he also doubled down, and he also said, "I thought Chris was Fredo also. The truth hurts." He totally lost it, and then he goes, "Low ratings, CNN." This is the president of the United States we're talking about here.
Right.
All the things that are going on in the world. And this is what Trump decides to tweet about this morning. I'm telling you, he tweets more about this stuff in Saturday Night Live than the real issues facing the country. This is the part of this story that I just don't understand. So Martina Navratilova, who is a big liberal, who's been on our show before, I've had her on before, she hates Trump. So she responds to this and it got a lot of likes. She says, "So you are okay with and applauding a politician actually body slamming a reporter for asking questions, but you have a problem with Chris saying this? Really?" She makes a very valid point. If it's somebody that is a Donald Trump supporter, if it is somebody that is on his side, he keeps quiet and he defends. But if it's somebody that is in the opposition to the president, and obviously he believes Chris Cuomo is in opposition to him, then he goes on the attack.
Well, yeah, It really comes down to he gets anytime there is any opportunity from CNN or Chris Cuomo to attack Donald Trump, they take it. And Trump doesn't get a lot of his opportunities, so he's taking his opportunity and he's attacking. It's not a big surprise.
I think he gets a lot of opportunities. I think the Democrats
not an opportunity like this.
I think the Democrats say a lot of dumb things.
Not where Chris Cuomo publicly embarrasses himself and threatens to physically harm someone.
I wonder if he's going to comment on this on social, on his show tonight. This makes him look really bad. Is it a huge deal? Is it a fireable offense? No, I don't think it is. But, in your private life, you think to yourself, have I ever lost control? Have I ever swore at somebody? Absolutely.
I think what it does is it makes his show seem like more of a shtick.
I guess.
It takes away credibility from who he pretends to be clearly on his show.
Well, let me turn that around on you. Don't you think this takes credibility away from the President of the United States that he's tweeting about stuff like this?
I think this is actually pretty consistent for the President of the United States.
You think the President of the United States?
The President of the United States has attacked people via Twitter well before he was the President of the United States.
But do you think this is appropriate? I'm
not suggesting it's appropriate, but it's consistent with his behavior. It's not out of the norm.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
But for Chris Cuomo, what happened is clearly out of the norm.
Okay,
and it'll be a surprise to a lot of people.
Okay, but I think the more serious issue here is that the President of the United Cuomo is an anchor at CNN. He does a show. Donald Trump is the President of the United States. In case you didn't know, I just wanted to throw that in there. You don't have a problem with the president tweeting out, using his time to tweet out, going after reporters, going after the media, calling him the enemy of the people, seizing on an opportunity when it's an embarrassing moment, clearly for Chris Cuomo. Donald Trump is a complete and total hypocrite. He's talking about filthy language that Cuomo used. We know all the filthy language that Donald Trump has used. How about the filthy language that some people at his campaign rallies use? Send her back. One person talking about shooting immigrants. But the president doesn't seem to be out in the open about that. Has the president tweeted about that? Has the president, no, he's defended it. He's defended it.
And I think he's talking about the specific swear words, like the F-bomb that he dropped twice. You've never seen Donald Trump drop an F-bomb as president, have you?
Not as president, but certainly before he was president. He said some pretty filthy things, grab him by the pee, and then the day after giving a half-hearted apology, and then 48 hours later saying, well, I don't think that's me on the tape. It was just locker room talk. So you think Chris Cuomo would respond by saying, hey, guys, that was just locker room talk? Do you think Chris Cuomo would do that? Do you think Chris Cuomo would say, hey, I don't think that's me on the video. I think the video was altered in some way. No, that's what the president does. That's what Donald Trump does because he is a petulant child. This is what he does. Somebody that, and look, we talked about it yesterday on the show with Anthony Scaramucci. The Mooch has been a friend of the president for years, going way before he was the president of the United States. The second Mooch criticizes Donald Trump, he turns on you. Scaramucci's right. And he tweeted out, look, eventually he's going to turn on everybody. Unless you kiss his ass on bending knee day in and day out, which, by the way, many people, in my opinion, in the Trump administration do on a daily basis, including Kellyanne Conway and, of course, the former press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. The second you criticize the president in any way, shape, or form, anyway, he's going to come at you, and he's going to turn on you. He just did it with Anthony Scaramucci. Now, he's been going at it with CNN for a very, very long time. So this is not a shocker to anybody. But again, the point I'm trying to make is this is what the president is doing with his time. What we should be talking about and continue to talk about is gun control. What we should be talking about are these horrible tragedies that took place last week. Of course, in El Paso, Gilroy, and Dayton, Ohio. Now we're learning that a friend of Connor Betts is the guy, the animal, whatever you want to call him, that killed 10 people.
The Dayton shooter.
Yeah, in Dayton, Ohio. Yeah. We're learning that the shooter.
The Satanist.
Whatever you want to call him. But we're learning the
Antifa
shooter.
Supporting.
Well, I don't care whether you support
Dayton shooter who had a rape list and a kill list in high school.
I don't care if he supported Antifa. What I do care about is that he did have a rape list. He did have a kill list, and nothing was done about it. Nothing to the extent of he was able to get weapons. So we're learning that the man that was in his car, his friend, actually helped him. The man, his name is Ethan Coley. This is very, very troubling information. Apparently, this guy Coley told agents that about 10 weeks before the shootings, at his apartment. He helped Betts assemble an AR-15 in the attacks. The affidavit says that. Also says about 6 to 8 weeks ago, Betts returned to Coley's apartment to pick up the assembled rifle, magazine, and body armor. This man allegedly also helped him hide some of the artillery and some of the weapons. So he's been charged, and here's my, as an accessory, firearms accessory. So what do you think should happen to this guy? This guy clearly, even if he didn't know that Betts was going to kill anyone, if you help somebody with weapons, if you help somebody in buying weapons, how many years should this guy go away from
I look at it as a very, very small terrorist cell. I think he should be considered a terrorist.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess. Coley's attorney telling CNN that in an email statement that Coley gave 3 separate interviews to federal authorities to provide helpful information to investigators. The attorney also went on to say he does not deny his friendship with Connor Betts, and he was as shocked and surprised as everyone else that Mr. Betts committed the violent and senseless massacre.
Three interviews after the fact?
Well,
after the shooting or prior to?
After the shooting,
After the shooting.
obviously.
Right.
Here's why I don't believe this. We're learning from a lot of people that went to school with this guy Betts. The fact that he had this rape list and a kill list. The fact that he allegedly physically assaulted and abused his sister, who eventually, sadly, was shot in this shooting. I don't buy this guy I don't buy this guy's story at all, and what his attorney is saying. Coley is being held right now in Montgomery County Jail, charged with possession of a firearm by someone who illegally uses or is addicted to a controlled substance and making false statements with respect to information required by the federal firearms code. So he'll be having a detention hearing tomorrow to determine bail. And these are some serious charges. He actually faces up to 15 years in prison if convicted on both counts. I tell you what, he's going away for a while. I don't know if he'll get 15 years, but he's going away for a while. You got all these people that have died, and there's got to be accountability. Now, listen, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. There is no one reason why these mass shootings are taking place, in my opinion. There's no one reason. There's plenty of reasons. Mental illness is certainly one of them. We need to do a better job as a society in detecting mental illness and doing something about it to make sure these nut jobs are not getting their hands on weapons. That's number one. Number two, we need comprehensive gun reform. We need background checks, comprehensive background checks. And in my personal opinion, and this is my opinion, these weapons of war, these AK-47s, these AR-15s, these types of weapons that many of these shooters are using that were built for mass casualties should not be on the market, period. That's number two. Number three, yes, I'm going to put some responsibility on Donald Trump. When you demonize immigrants on a regular basis, when you call Mexicans rapists on a regular basis, when you go after people of color and tell them to go back to their country, you are giving these nut jobs, just like this white supremacist, right here in our backyard in Las Vegas, who was recently arrested. We spoke about this yesterday, who said he wanted to go after people of faith, Jewish people, go into synagogues, start killing people, go into gay bars and start killing people. Is he crazy? Is he nuts? Yes. The president is not helping in these types of situations. He's just not helping. That is number three, and that needs to be addressed, and this hateful rhetoric needs to stop.
Well, are you saying by the actual amount that is towards this actual crime? Are you saying that number three is you've got gun control?
There's a lot of things.
Mental health, number three. President should be number 8, if that.
Well, then you got to give me...
Big farm, social media, bullying, family, parenting.
It was
the president might have a 2 to 4. He's definitely not helping it with this rhetoric. I agree.
It was,
but saying that he's a bigger factor in this.
I didn't say that.
I
didn't say that.
Well, so you
Let me
breaking,
clarify.
Okay, so you had more to say.
It's in no particular order.
He hasn't.
I'm
okay.
saying he plays a factor. If you're asking me what are the biggest factors,
yes,
well, obviously it's guns and
biggest,
mental illness. Guns and mental illness.
And big farm, a lot of these psychotropic drugs, parenting, bullying, social media, all of that.
Listen, these guys, and that's certainly a part of the problem, but what I'm saying is no matter what type of mental illness you have, when you allow these people to buy these weapons of war, that is a huge issue. Do they need help? Do they need to be in facilities? Absolutely. If you have that type of hatefulness in your mind. But the point I'm trying to make is we can't let these people nut jobs, as I would call them, get their hands on these types of weapons, number one, you just can't. And number two, they need help.
Well, and I really think that the Second Amendment needs to be revisited.
I don't know if I would
We're talking 1776. What was the most destructive weapon? A musket that could kill one person,
obviously,
in 5 minutes before having to reload.
Well,
now you've got weapons that can kill 200 people in 1 minute.
Oh yeah, that's an issue.
I mean, the technology
that's what I mean.
has advanced far beyond the laws.
Of course, and that's what I mean when I say gun control. We need some logical gun control. We agree on that, and that's a good point. A lot of these people way on the right say, well, I support what our forefathers, we talk about our forefathers. Well, guess what? Some of our forefathers, they're not my forefathers. Some of our forefathers were also for slavery. So don't you give me that nonsense. I'm going to do everything that our forefathers said. Give me a break. That's ignorance. Give me a break. They were for owning people based on color of skin. So don't you talk to me about, we're going to listen to these forefathers.
Well, I mean, and by the Second Amendment, I could actually own a tank. I could have a flamethrower. I could have a missile launcher. I could have a bazooka. It just doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. So, I put it in no particular order, but certainly at the top, if we are going to put things in order, it's gun control,
okay,
and it's mental illness. I do think the president of the United States bears some responsibility. The hateful rhetoric needs to stop.
It's extremely minimal, and it's only applied to very impressionable, clearly mental ill individuals.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you think it's so minimal,
I'm not saying it's helpful.
Let me ask you a question. If you think it's minimal, because that's the word you used. In the manifesto by another nut job, another white supremacist, the shooting that took place in Walmart, he quoted President Trump. He used President Trump's terminology.
Patrick Crusius.
So, yes, so I think in some cases it's not minimal. I think President Trump influenced this nut job, this white supremacist, a lot. So I think it's a case-by-case basis. But, yes, the president does bear responsibility.
Well, I mean, by that logic, then Elizabeth Warren, who Connor Betts clearly followed, when she called Donald Trump a fascist.
Here's my problem with what you're saying. I just went after Elizabeth Warren to start the show.
I totally agree.
But
you did.
And
she says some incredibly stupid, divisive things.
But in my opinion, she's never incited violence. Okay? I don't think she's ever incited violence. She's never. Now, I don't agree with what she did in demonizing police, but I still don't think that's inciting violence. And she certainly hasn't demonized illegals. She certainly hasn't made some ignorant comments to the extent that Donald Trump has made. Good people on both sides. Charlottesville, calling Mexicans rapists, going after John McCain, a war hero. I mean, the list goes on and on. It goes on and on. And I look at the bomber, the CNN bomber who sent some bombs, who just was sentenced, I believe, to 25 years.
Cesar?
Yeah.
And then the other guy, the guy in North Dakota that decided to, there was a 13-year-old kid who didn't have his hand on his heart during the national anthem, and so he took his head and he smashed it into the ground, and then he blamed Donald Trump for it. He's turning into a scapegoat for the mentally ill to commit atrocities.
Well, then Donald Trump needs to understand that and he needs to stop the hateful rhetoric. I mean, it's pretty simple to me. This isn't brain surgery here, okay? The president takes some responsibility. Is he the only reason why these shootings are happening at such a high rate? Absolutely not, and I would never say that, but he plays a role. He absolutely plays a role.
Gun control, mental illness, psychotropic drugs, parenting, social media, and bullying play a much larger role. And it's basically been established that a lot of these shooters don't have great home lives. They don't have a solid father in their family. And Ron Futrell has talked about that on multiple occasions on our show.
Yeah.
By the way, where is he?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. But I agree with that to a certain extent. Like I said, I do believe that there are a lot of factors and there are a lot of reasons why these shootings are taking place. But, people want to talk about thoughts and prayers. And it's very nice if you're a caring person and you're throwing those prayers out there. But guess what? Thoughts and prayers are not going to change the gun laws in this country. Thoughts and prayers are not going to help the mentally ill. Thoughts and prayers are probably not going to stop the president of the United States with his hateful rhetoric. You can give me all the thoughts and prayers you want. It's not going to change the fact that 18% hate crimes are up since Donald Trump took office. It's not going to change the fact that we've had, over 200 mass shootings in the last year? I mean, it's insane. It seems like every other day we're talking about another mass shooting, every other day. And don't get me wrong, Elizabeth Warren is not helping. She's not helping the fight here when she calls police officers murderers that are clearly not in the case of the Ferguson. She's not helping.
I mean, how insane was that, by the way?
It's wrong, but I think Donald Trump has done some things just as bad, if not worse.
It's in the same vein as the 0.0000001% Native American pitch.
Again, it's wrong, but if the Republicans out there want to go after Elizabeth Warren, they have to be consistent.
It's
and go
not
after
just
Donald
it's
Trump.
not just wrong; it's disgusting.
Well, I would say a lot of the things that I don't agree with her. We did an entire segment, and I talked about that. But I would also say that Donald Trump, at this point, at this juncture, as the president of the United States, is far more influential in the words he uses than Elizabeth Warren. Not to say what Elizabeth Warren says doesn't, mean something, because it does. That's not what I'm saying. But Donald Trump is the leader of the free world. His words matter. When you go on Twitter this morning and you start attacking CNN and doubling down on that stuff, and you start calling the media the enemy of the people, and you demonize illegal immigrants, when does it end? It needs to stop. And I'm telling you, he's going to do it again. He hasn't really been doing it too much over the last week or two because of these shootings, I think. But I'm telling you, it's going to start up again. The man cannot control himself. He is a narcissist, and it's going to continue. And to say that he doesn't bear any brunt in these shootings, to me, and I know you didn't say that, but any responsibility to me is complicit, ridiculous. I don't care whether you're a Trump supporter or not. You have to stand up. And you have to say to yourself, look, the president holds and bears some responsibility, as all of our politicians do. But what the president says matters more than perhaps anybody on the planet right now. And he needs to choose his words wisely. It almost happened in our backyard. A white supremacist arrested, wanted to shoot up synagogues and gay bars in this town. Let me tell you something. If not for the great police work and the great job by Metro and the FBI, a lot of people would have been killed in this town, and we would have had another massacre. We don't want anything like that to happen here or anywhere else in this country. It starts with gun control. It starts with mental illness. And it also starts with the president of the United States. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN. All right, welcome back. It is The Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Tuesday. By the way, quick reminder, we're going to have Michael Avenatti in studio on Thursday. He's going to be breaking some huge news. I can't say what it is, obviously, but he's going to be breaking some really, really big national news on this show Thursday morning. And we will also have Steve Sanchez, who does a show here 6 to 8 p.m. He's way on the right. Michael Avenatti's obviously on the left. They are going to do battle in studio on Thursday. I promise you it is going to be fun. We kind of had a little bit of a preview yesterday. We had both of them on the phone. Oh, boy. There is going to be some fireworks in studio on Thursday. I promise you that. It is going to be a lot of fun. Also, later on this week, Patrick Lindsay, he's the director of the Shriners Hospital for Children's Open. He's going to be joining us in studio as well, so that's going to be fun. And then on Friday, I don't know, JD, have you heard about this show? It's at, I believe it's at Bally's, if I'm not mistaken, called Potted Potter. Sounds like a pretty cool show, actually. These guys from the show here in Vegas are going to be coming in studio. They're going to be giving out some tickets on Friday. Then next week, we got the guys from Human Nature coming in. Next week, Richard Marx. Are you a Richard Marx fan? He's not a Donald Trump fan, by the way. Pretty good musician, though. He's going to be joining us.
He's a very talented musician.
Yeah, he's going to be joining us next week as well. So we are locked and loaded. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Speaking about being locked and loaded, we'll get to this coming up in the next segment. But President Trump has been pretty outspoken. He does want comprehensive background checks. Now, what he says and what he does are two completely different things. We'll talk about that. Also, a very popular morning Fox News host who actually does a radio show right before ours. A restaurant shut down because he was coming to town. I don't agree with it. I think it's ridiculous. I'm going to take his side on this one. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You are listening to The Vegas Take.